startups, keeping in mind different stages of evolution and the balance required for them in maintaining short-term and longer-term goals. These guidelines can be used by startups almost as a ready reckoner as they glide along that path of good governance, and eventually most of them move towards listing. And the charter is followed by an online self-evaluation government scorecard to help them assess where they are on that journey. We are also launching a publication today on the DPDP, that's the new Privacy Act. It highlights the provisions of the DPDP Act and how it will impact enterprises in India. Through this document, we plan to provide insights into how the board can navigate the DPDP Act and the evolving data privacy landscape. This year, we have also focused our discussion on corporate governance in family businesses. Unlike most of the Western world, India is still predominantly driven by family businesses. We know that family businesses are known for their long-term approach, thinking not in quarters or years, but in generations. Quick decision-making, which comes from conviction, intuition, because of deep knowledge of the business handed generation to generation. And last but not the least, stability of leadership because of consistency and continuity in the business. But family businesses also have to deal with various paradoxes: tradition versus innovation, financial prudence versus taking risk, growth versus liquidity. Two key elements of family governance are: how do you manage the family? Challenge for each one of us, whether you're just a family. And how do you also manage family but keeping in mind business governance? Very soon in this year we will come out with this charter of corporate governance in family business as well. As India gets integrated into the world market more and more, Indian as well as international investors will demand greater disclosure, more transparency around major decisions, and stronger shareholder value. Discussions at CII's Corporate Governance Summit are aligned to our CII theme for the year FY24, which is towards a competitive and sustainable India at 100, which focuses on growth, on inclusiveness, on globalization, and on building trust. Today's summit will focus hence on 4 broad themes: building trust and stakeholder engagement, governance in family business, ESG imperatives for boards, and cyber risk and data privacy for boards. We have many distinguished speakers today and technical experts who will be deliberating through the day on these various important issues. With these remarks, I once again thank all of you for your presence over here and welcome you to the 17th CII Corporate Governance Summit. Thank you.
Thank you Sanjiv. Thank you very much for detailing both the CII's work as well as some of the issues, plus also, of course, the structure of our conference today. With that, may I request the President of CII, Mr. R. Dinesh, to give his remarks, please.
Madhabi ji, Sanjiv, CB, colleagues from industry, ladies and gentlemen. I think under your able leadership, I think SEBI has been spearheading various reform initiatives, and we thank you and congratulate you for that. In fact, if I can say, your leadership has been solution-oriented, has shown empathy towards how the industry needs and making sure the right perspectives are understood. You have been bold in, I would call it, making world standards being set, and also in the reforms which you have been looking at. And finally, integrity has been the sole theme under which this has happened. So in a way, that stands for SEBI in itself, if you look at the 4 subjects which I have outlined here. As Sanjiv mentioned, I think our theme this year has been on building trust. And I think trust is the glue which makes sure that all the stakeholders are aligned in the way in which they act and maintain their faith in the overall business ecosystem. I think it does make sure that not only are businesses benefited, but both the cost of compliance and ease of compliance gets done if trust can be built up and transparency is there in every action of ourselves. And like I mentioned, the approach of being solution-oriented is not just in having this two-way communication, but institutionalizing formats like the Industry Standards Forum, where we can work together to make that happen and make sure that it is also a data-led decision-making rather than just being subjective. And as I said, you have been empathizing with the way in which industry perspectives, because you have had an experience in industry, and we do appreciate that we have to do our bit to reach out and use that approach to work with you in future as we have been doing in the past. And from I think the two specific reforms which already has been mentioned, the T+0 settlement and also the small and medium real estate investment trust for 50 crores have all been path-breaking initiatives. As I sit here today and we look at this bedrock of corporate governance going forward, I would like to talk about the four specific trends or five specific trends which are shaping the way in which we do business in future. First is in terms of how we look at the increased board oversight and making sure we are able to make the complex business scenarios well assimilated and used to the benefit of the companies in general. That there are expectations which are diverse and which are, I would call it, increasing as the day goes by. But at the same time, as Sanjiv mentioned, we want to be able to balance profit with growth and also making sure all the stakeholders are made protected. Similarly, in terms of stakeholder involvement and protection, as well as sustainability and ESG, have been the three themes which have now got to shift from compliance to actually being intent and practice in general. And that's something where we move from the law to the spirit. The third is the complex blend of risk and opportunity which are now arising for companies, whether it be the geopolitical shifts or be the natural situations which we face, both from, I would call it, business requirements or business logic, as well as natures forcing us to be different. This also applies to the advent of AI and the way in which it is going to be used responsibly for the benefit of business. Similarly, cybersecurity and data governance have become a significant focus, and I think Sanjiv mentioned that's one of the sessions which we are going to cover here today. And also, how do companies and boards manage that going forward from both, as I said, the law perspective, but equally important, how do we implement it in spirit and follow through? Finally, the role of independent directors and how do we see them adding value and not just being looked at as, I would call it, playing the role of supporting the company, but helping the company evolve for a sustainable future which results in good growth. It is time we in industry actually work with SEBI to balance all of these business imperatives, but at the same time have built this trust through an ethical and transparent culture. That's what we from CII are committing to do. Sanjiv already mentioned about the various initiatives which CII has taken, which I would say have been early forerunners to what we are hoping to do today. And we really look forward to working with you, not just in enhancing the corporate governance standards, but making sure we build trust in this relationship, which is necessary for India to aspire for the great future, which we hope we will be able to achieve, not just in the next few years, but in the, as part of Viksit Bharat. Finally, we really look forward to hearing you, understanding you, and working with you continuously in this journey and making it very successful and rewarding for all of us as industry, who wishes this country prosperity and growth in the future. So thank you and wish all this event all great success.
May we now request SEBI Chair to kindly launch the corporate corporate governance charter for startups, please. Can I request Kudal also to come up on stage? Thank you, ma'am. May we kindly now request you to launch the CII publication on the DPDP Act and Enterprises in India, Privacy for the Board. Thank you, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now our pleasure and honor to invite the SEBI Chairperson, Ms. Madhabi Puri Buch, to give her keynote presentation as the chief guest.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here. I must say that I really enjoyed almost 2 hours that we spent, with the members of CII, having some very interesting discussions. I learned a lot. Hopefully, I shared the SEBI perspective on how we think, and that's, I think, most important, that what is the regulatory intent in everything that we do. And today's summit on trust, I think, could not have been more appropriate. To our mind, the entire edifice of not just the market, but the entire economy rests on the edifice of trust. And to us, and as I said earlier in the morning, for trust, it's a two-way street. It takes two to tango. So not only is it imperative for the industry to create trust and build trust, it is also equally imperative for the regulator to build trust in itself. Why is this? Because the regulator in many ways is simply a proxy for the wider investor base. And as we discussed earlier this morning, when a private equity investor invests in a private company, there is a certain relationship of trust between them. And there are certain roles and responsibilities that are played out in that relationship. When a company goes public, the regulator steps in as a proxy for the larger investors. Today, overall, across the market, 44% of shareholding is with the promoters, 56% is with the public. So the regulator is nothing but a proxy for that 56%. And so when industry seeks to build trust with the regulator, it's trying to build trust with the market. And when the regulator seeks to build trust with industry, it is doing so only as a representative of that 56%. To us as a regulator, the most attribute of trust is transparency. And I'm delighted at the way in which today's program is going forward. But somebody told me that the problem with people who see a lot of opportunity ahead of them is that they sometimes forget to look back and see how far they've come. So I thought, first let me start with a question at how far we have come. And truly, it is something that we're all so proud of. I like to refer to it as momentum, right? Momentum of the Indian economy, momentum of the Indian markets, momentum of the Indian businesses. And this Indian momentum has its own unique characteristics. I can't help but refer to, and all of us studied this in physics, right? So Newtonian mechanics tells us that momentum is equal to mass into velocity. India has always had the mass because it's had this huge scale, this huge size, the demographic dividend. We've always had it. But what is it that is giving us momentum today is the velocity. What is the manifestation of this velocity? Whenever I meet overseas investors, and I meet many of them today because many of them are coming into India because they either want to start investing in India or increase their allocations to India. And at the same time, we have an outreach program. We go and meet a large number of foreign investors to tell them and talk to them about India and its market. And what I share with them are my thoughts, two very simple thoughts about velocity. I'm not an economist, so I'm very happy to plead ignorance that I don't understand complex econometric models. To me, I track only two sets of parameters. The first are tax collections. Because as they say, there are only two realities in life, taxes and death. So we won't talk about death, we can talk about taxes. There is no assumption in tax collection numbers. There are no models. This is a reality, you can trust it. So you look at the GST collections and it's been an amazing story for the country. Yes, initially it was about greater compliance. After that, yes, there was a certain element of inflation. But at the end of the day, there is the growth there. And what started as over there 1 lakh crores per month is today at 1.68. This is not trivial. And the global investors, when they see this chart, they actually find that it's illuminating, that, oh, we didn't realize it was this good. Look at the advanced tax, and again I talked to them about how in India we have a concept of advanced tax which is nothing but a forward-looking statement by the economy as a whole as to how much profit is going to be made in the system. So you look at the numbers quarter on quarter, 14% up in, this is cumulative, quarter on quarter. So 14%, 21%, and Q3 up 20% from last year. This is the velocity of India. This is what is giving us momentum. Now, being somewhat of a realist, I also like to look at the real economy, just not the financial numbers. And what is my favorite proxy for looking at that is power consumption. Look at the trend again, whether it is petrol product consumption or electricity supply. Of course, there is a cyclicality to all of this, but look at the trend line and the way it is growing. The only area where we see much more volatility is in natural gas, but that's largely because of, global issues and geopolitical issues. But the key productive activity in the economy, you can look at the trend line there, and again, you see the velocity at which the country is moving. How is this manifested in the market? And it's really amazing to see. We talk about hockey stick phenomena at an enterprise level. What we are witnessing is the hockey stick phenomena at an economy level, at a market-wide level, at an ecosystem level. So if you see the way the market cap has gone, right, from 74 lakh crores to 378 lakh crores, we are at one-time GDP now. The growth has been phenomenal in just 10 years. You look at India's weight in the emerging market index. We started at 6.6, we're today at 17.6. It's just, again, and look at that hockey stick effect. So this is the velocity that we speak about. This is the momentum of India, the new India. This is a favorite slide also that I like to show. Why is it that our markets are commanding? And this is, I think, an achievement for each person in this room, because you are the ones who are commanding this price to earning multiple, which is higher than not only the averages of the world indices, but you can see there the comparison with various nations. So at 22.2, yes, some people say we are an expensive market, but still why is the investment coming? Because this is a reflection of the optimism and the trust and faith that the world has in India today, that we are commanding these kind of multiples in our markets. The other thing which is driving, of course, the resilience of our markets is the participation of retail investors, both directly and indirectly through the mutual funds. Look at the velocity over a 10-year period. The blue line going from 1 crore investors, unique investors, these are unique PANs deduplicated across mutual funds, 1 crore to 4.4 crore. Look at the asset under management, the orange line, going from 8 lakh crores to 55 lakh crores. This is the velocity of India and India's markets. All of this, to what intent, to what purpose? At SEBI, we have often said that the sole reason for SEBI's existence is capital formation. Everything else is incidental. If we don't facilitate capital formation, we will not have fulfilled our basic purpose of existence. So if you look at fund mobilization, and we're just comparing the last 12 months with the corresponding previous 12 months, and I'm sure these numbers will surprise some of you. While the equity numbers are good and up 19%, look at the debt numbers. It is huge. You know, this is the often forgotten child of the Indian markets. We're so focused on the equity markets, we sometimes forget what is it that the bond market is doing for the Indian economy. So when we add the two together, 10.5 lakh crores has been raised by industry from the capital market in the past 12 months. This is not trivial. This is velocity. REITs and InvITs, I've said on numerous occasions that we see this as the vehicle of future growth, and we think that going forward, possibly REITs, InvITs and Muni bonds together can be in value equal to our entire market the way it is valued today. In other words, 1-time GDP. So to us, this growth, and you can see there, is again a symptom of early signs. So while the numbers are small, about 6,000 crores and 22,000 crores, the numbers are small, but look at the velocity, look at the speed at which it is picking up, and we would like to see this growing in, as many ways and forms as possible. A quick look again at the bond numbers, because as I said, this is often a forgotten child. So the numbers speak. What this number shows is, for every 100 rupees that the banking system gives to corporate India, how many rupees does the bond market give? Now this number peaked post-COVID because a lot of the money that came in through, the low-cost funds that the Reserve Bank released. And today we're stabilizing at about that number of 56%. If we add the commercial paper to it, this number would actually again pop back up and cross 60%, because that's another 4 lakh crores roughly. So about 62% is again what we would say. So in short, the fixed income market is giving 60 rupees to industry for every 100 rupees that the banking system gives to industry. This is not trivial, this is significant, and it is growing. So how does all of this work from our perspective as a regulator? We are committed to the entire process of co-creation. We have in SEBI a very, very rich tradition for the last 30 years of having very strong advisory committees who guide us on formulation of policy. What we have done in the recent past, and was referred by Sanjiv and Dinesh, was we've taken it to the next level, which is what? We find that large parts of industry never have a problem with our regulatory objective. The destination is never a problem. They agree that something needs to be done here, something needs to be done there. It's just that the path that we end up prescribing is very painful. Now, what we therefore said was, why should we allow that to happen? It is not our intent to make the path painful. It is our intent to make the path as easy as possible to get to that destination which we both share. So we have extended the concept of co-creation to this concept of industry standards forum, and as has been pointed out, the results have been sparkling. the kind of inputs that we are getting, the kind of discussions we have in this forum, in order to ease out the effort for compliance. And as I said in our meeting earlier this morning, was that it is our intent and our hope that the industry works to actually pick up line item by line item of SEBI regulations and circulars and define the standards which will be deemed to be in compliance. And therefore, to make compliance so painless that it's like breathing. A company just runs and focuses on its customers and on its business, and compliance just happens because it's so clear, so simple, and so easy to implement. That is our objective. In all of this, we think that technology as an enabler has a huge role to play, because this is the one tool which we know which reduces risk, reduces cost, and improves and optimizes whatever we are trying to achieve, whether compliance or whether customer benefit, etc. Now, you know, our T+1, which was itself a global first because there was no large market in the world which had achieved T+1, was implemented, you know, with the support of the entire ecosystem. And interestingly, you know, we measure something called the defect rate of settlement by something which is a measure of what is your DVP ratio, delivery versus payment ratio. Prior to moving to T+1, the defect rate was about 0.7, 0.8%. After implementation of T+1, it actually halved to 0.3 to 0.4%. So actually, the entire process was far more optimal and efficient after moving to T+1. And of course, now we have moved into optional T+0. And what I think gives us huge satisfaction is the fact that there was one person who said to me, I don't know if Vikram Kothari is here today, he said to me one day that there was a time when we as Indians used to sit in the last seat of global fora, the last row. Today, we sit in center stage. We have, I mean, I had dozens of pictures to choose from, but whether it is NSE, BSE, NSDL, CDSL, the number of awards that have been won, this is my favorite, Nehal, the number of awards that have been won by our market infrastructure institutions, whether it is for T+1, T+0, for distributed ledger technology, I don't know how many of you know, we've implemented one of the most sophisticated distributed ledger technologies for our bond market, for which NSDL has been feted across the globe. So today we are at center stage. People turn to India and ask us, guide, advice, we sit as panelists on discussions. We are not sitting on the last row. We are sitting in center stage, receiving and giving guidance to the rest of the world on how we have implemented cutting-edge technology and cutting-edge regulation. In doing all of this, as I said, how do we think about SEBI itself? And to us, the question of trust is not a question of finger pointing. It's a question of both sides need to earn trust. You need to earn your stripes. So as SEBI also, we need to earn trust of industry. And what are we doing towards that? I already shared the thought about co-creation. It's also about transparency. Because just as we ask industry for transparency, we believe we should be transparent as well. As many of you know, we have a three-pronged mandate. In the preamble of the SEBI Act, we are mandated to facilitate development of the market, regulation of the market, and investor protection. Three things. So we have started measuring and we have started going public with these numbers to say that today, if you look at the it's updated till February. So for this financial year, based on all the circulars that we've issued, about 50% are regulatory in nature, which means investor protection and risk reduction. The balance, 44%, a large part, is developmental and ease of doing business, ease of compliance. And our definition of developmental is very tight. We have to facilitate a new product, a new asset class, a new channel, a new investor class, something new which is being encouraged. You know, we were referring to the small and medium REITs. We've talked about online bond platforms. We've talked about the repo institution. So many things are really sitting there in developmental. So today, our balance sheet is very, very balanced. In fact, I worry that, you know, will we really have the ability to hold this ratio? It is our desire. But at the same time, the most important thing is whether we succeed or not, the important thing is to be transparent and share with you that actually, contrary to popular belief that regulators only always tightening things, it is factually not true. 44% of the time we are doing ease of doing business and development. It's just that since it's non-controversial, it rarely grabs the headlines. Now, the question is, secondly, about the inner workings of SEBI. So we are committed to efficiency because, as I said, trust has to be earned by us as well. So what is most important is capital formation, and these are the two internal processes which fuel the capital formation. So public issuance approvals, as you can see, we've started tracking quarter on quarter the numbers as to where we stand internally. Having pendency is actually a good thing because it means there's more activity in the market, but aging is a bad thing. So as you can see, so long as something is in the green and yellow, we consider it good. The minute it goes into blue and gray, the teams are answerable as to why that is pending, what is it that is obstructing it, and what are the policy interventions we have to take in order to eliminate those, that aging. Now the important thing, I've said this once before, it's worth repeating, normally in any government organization, the time or the clock starts. Pendency or aging is usually measured from the time of receipt of all information. Now, as you can imagine, that's a huge loophole in favor of every government official because the moment he's running out of time, he simply has to ask one more question and his clock gets reset. Right? Now, we don't allow that in SEBI anymore from an internal MIS perspective. Legally, that's still the case and that continues because we're a part of the government. But internally for performance management, this entire aging analysis is from the date of first application. So there are no excuses here, there's no loophole here, there is no escape for the SEBI official to simply ask one more question and say, oh, I'm in time. So this is really important for us and this is our commitment and this is our transparency. There may be days and times when we don't do well on this, but then we are answerable to the industry as to what we are doing to correct it. Mutual fund schemes, I think we have some mutual fund colleagues here. I'm told in lighter vein that earlier it used to be the case that the sales guys used to tell the compliance guys that file the documents with SEBI, they'll take 3-4 months to clear it by the time, you know, file the paper. And these days, the sales guys tell the compliance guys, don't file the paper. SEBI will approve it in 3 days, 4 days. I'm not ready for launch. So that is the speed that we aspire to, and we are streamlining our use of technology, our processes, our focus of the teams in order to make sure that wherever there is an opportunity to raise capital from the market, there is never any reason for any delay from SEBI end. So in short, the entire question of trust, this two-way trust, as I like to call it, it takes two to tango. We need to do this together. Otherwise, it will not work. And what we are hoping for is that this wonderful momentum that we have in our country today, it's an amazing velocity that we have already taken, right? How do we take this velocity further? And thanks to Newton, let's make sure that our P is equal to MV remains our mantra and that the velocity goes faster and faster. And next, we look at acceleration and not just velocity. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhabi ji, for those very clear and concise remarks. You started an
आज पूरा देश कह रहा है, तीसरी बार
With the Ab Ki Baar 400 Par war cry, Prime Minister Narendra Modi officially kick-started the NDA's Lok Sabha campaign 2024 from the state of Uttar Pradesh. Holding a mega poll rally in Meerut in the presence of UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Rashtriya Lok Dal Chief Jayant Chaudhary, Prime Minister launched scathing attacks against the opposition India bloc, accusing them of rallying for the corrupt. Prime Minister further accused the Congress of insulting late Chaudhary Charan Singh's legacy and suppressing his voice.
इनको लगता है कि मोदी इनसे डर जाएगा। मैं अपने देश को भ्रष्टाचारियों से बचाने के लिए जो कदम उठाए जा रहे हैं और इसलिए बड़े बड़े भ्रष्टाचारी आज सलाखों के पीछे हैं। इंडी गठबंधन ने चौधरी चरण सिंह जी को भी उचित सम्मान नहीं दिया। हमारे छोटे भाई जयंत चौधरी संसद में भारत रत्न के सम्मान को लेकर के बोलने के लिए खड़े हुए तो उनकी आवाज को रोकने की कोशिश की गई।
In 2014 and in 2019 too, Prime Minister Modi had chosen Meerut to start his poll campaign. Accusing the Samajwadi Party and the Congress of dynasty politics, Chief Minister Yogi claimed UP had suffered under the opposition's danga and curfew raj.
समाजवादी पार्टी और कांग्रेस की सरकारों के समय इस क्षेत्र ने उनकी दंगा पॉलिसी को झेला है, उनके कर्फ्यू के उन यातनाओं को झेला है।
This was the first occasion when Modi and Jayant Chaudhary were seen sharing stage a decade after BJP decimated RLD in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections. RLD joined hands with the BJP-led NDA in February this year.
हम और आप इस बात को जानते हैं कि अगर प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी नहीं होते तो भारत रत्न का सम्मान धरती पुत्र चौधरी साहब को मिलने वाला नहीं था।
Meanwhile, opposition attacked the BJP over PM's corrupt India bloc jibe.
एनडीए और खासतौर से भाजपा अपराधी जो आर्थिक रूप से घोटालेबाजों की कोल्ड स्टोरेज बन गई है। जितने लोग बाहर आपको भ्रष्टाचारी लगते हैं, जब आपके यहाँ जाते हैं ईडी सीबीआई उनको सलूट करने लगती है, इनकम टैक्स सलूट करने लगता है। तो मैंने ठीक कहा, भ्रष्टाचारियों का कोल्ड स्टोरेज है भारतीय जनता पार्टी।
The BJP has fielded veteran television actor Arun Govil from the Meerut seat. Govil became a household name after he essayed the role of Lord Ram in the epic television series Ramayan. It's a three-way contest in Meerut. Samajwadi Party's Bhanu Pratap Singh and BSP's Devvrat Tyagi will face off against Arun Govil in the Western UP Lok Sabha seat.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm and this is BTS, that's Behind the Scenes, a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest Business Today magazine with all our viewers. Joining in on this show with me is Anand Adhikari, the managing editor of Business Today magazine. Also with us is on this show Krishna Gopalan, the executive editor of Business Today magazine. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. And first up, for all our viewers, a quick glimpse into the latest edition and how it looks. Well, that's the cover that you really look at. Of course, it's a special edition because it talks about the best banks, which is the 28th Business Today KPMG survey of India's best banks and NBFCs as well. So you do have Rajiv Jain, the MD of Bajaj Finance, up on the cover. You have Uday Kotak, the founder and director of Kotak Mahindra Bank, Shashidhar Jagdishan, the MD and CEO of HDFC Bank, and Sandeep Bakshi, the MD and CEO of ICICI Bank, all of which have been big winners for this year as well. Anand, to start off with you, of course, we've seen this massive event for the Business Today viewers, the Best Bank Awards, just a few days ago, and in Ahmedabad, in Gift City, that was the major talk of the town across, media houses across the country as well. And of course, it was a marquee event. But when we talk about the crux of it, what really led to this event, the major highlights of the BT KPMG study, the categories that you had, the winners and the surprises, if any.
Thank you, Sakshi. So, the BT Best Bank study is the most respected, long-standing study in the market. And, the way we do these studies, we divide this study into two parts. One is the quantitative part and the second is the qualitative part. Within quantitative part, we evaluate banks and institutions, broadly on three categories. One is the growth, second is the size, and third is the strength. And within these three broad categories, we have 35 plus parameters. So within growth, we have growth in advances, growth in deposit, growth in operating profit. Strength, we look at the size of the balance sheet, the size of the operating profit. And on the strength parameters, we have ROCE, ROE, capital adequacy, net NPAs, cost to income, even divergence in NPAs, and things like, secured advances to unsecured, the ratio. And, based on the kind of winners we got, so in the large best bank, large category, we had, SDFC, as the best bank. And we saw ICICI Bank is catching up very fast in the last 2-3 years. And this year, since the data is for FY 23, so the merger numbers are not there. I'm sure next year we'll have ICICI, coming up in the ranks. In the mid-size category, we have got Bank of Maharashtra. And the interesting thing about Bank of Maharashtra, that is based in Maharashtra, but, 3 years back, they came out with a strategy, of opening branches in all the major districts of the country. And that's how they are getting huge deposits, from, cities like, let's say, Patna, or centers like, Delhi and other, states. And shows in their CASA ratio. Today they have the CASA ratio, is the highest CASA ratio in the banking industry. I mean, it's more than 55%. And that is helping them, to do things like mortgages and all. And, again, when I looked at the mid-size category, IDFC Bank is catching up very fast. So IDFC Bank is number 2, this year. I'm sure next year the ranking will change. If you go to the small banks, we have Karur Vysya Bank, after a long time. But the number 2 is CSB, this Prem Vatsa owned, Catholic Syrian Bank. And again, CSB is catching up very fast in that category. Surprises there on the small finance bank. We got Ujjivan, small finance bank as a winner. And in the last 2 years, we had AU small finance bank. And if you look at the stock market performance, the way AU has done, in the last 4-5 years, this year is a setback. Ujjivan has displaced, AU there. And for the first time, we did, we include NBFC category in our study, and no surprises there. Bajaj Finance is the, where they. So there are, 16 categories, 17 awards, so, and a lot of surprises there. So I want viewers to read the copy.
Right. Anand, I also wanted to ask you, of course, we do know that after a long haul, we are now seeing banks which have the best of balance sheets today, lowest NPAs. So the worry points are a thing of the past. Capital buffers are there. There is a higher profitability, be it in the private sector banks, be it in the PSU banks as well. What are the challenges right now for the banking industry going forward that you foresee?
So, Sakshi, if you look at the banking industry, there are two sides. One is the liability side and other is the asset side. Liability side is the one where they get the deposits, low-cost deposit, and asset side is the side where they lend. It's the assets, the home loan, car loan, and, other loans which they gave. Now, on the liability side, the big challenge is on the CASA. The CASA is the raw material for banks, the low-cost current and, savings account. And that's where we are seeing a lot of challenges because of, liquidity got tightened in the last 1 year. And I have seen, the CASA ratio of big banks falling. And that's where I see, a big challenge for banks. And for our Lifetime Achievement Award, we met, Uday Kotak. And he was talking about a big structural shift which is happening, from savers to investors. So all youngsters today, they prefer to invest in equity and mutual fund, rather than putting, their money in, fixed deposit where they're getting, very low, returns. And I was also talking to one of the bankers, he jokingly said, people are also, putting money in this gaming industry. So a lot of money, going in the gaming industry also. So I see, a big structural shift that is happening on the liability side, and I see, banks facing major challenges. Now coming to the asset side, if you see the last 10 years, we saw huge NPAs, on the corporate and the mid-size, category, and we saw banks getting, big time into, on the retail side. Whether it's SBI, Bank of Baroda, or you look at SDFC or ICICI of the world, they have a higher, proportion of retail asset today in their book. And the last 5-6 years, the retail book has grown, big time. But now, if you see, delinquencies or the NPAs have started coming on the retail side, and RBI recently came out with direction on the risk weight. Now, they want all banks to increase risk weight in the unsecured segment. So everybody slowed down there because of, overheating. And on the CapEx, again, if you see on the CapEx side of, on the private sector CapEx, and that's not happening. So corporate lending is not happening. On the retail side is overheating, and RBI putting more regulation or requirement for higher capital is there on the retail side, and on the liability side the CASA ratios is falling. So I see three big challenges for the banking industry going forward.
Okay, these are the three big challenges that you see for the banking industry. But when we talk about the study itself, for the first time, the BT KPMG study has started ranking the large NBFCs, and we've actually seen Bajaj Finance has emerged as the winner this time around. Investors, however, seem to have made no money in the Bajaj stock in the last 3 years, despite the market being buoyant. Of course, we're recording this at a time when we've actually seen the financial year ending with big spike coming in on the Bajaj twins, and that's again, with the buzz probably of Bajaj Housing Finance going to be probably coming out with an IPO. How do you see Bajaj Finance now planning going forward from here?
Yes, so see, we all have seen the way Bajaj Finance has given return in the last 16 years. It's a multi-bagger stock. But yes, I agree. In the last 3 years, the returns have been stagnant. They have not gone up. I see the three major things that have happened with Bajaj Finance. One, we have seen in the last 3 months a major management reshuffle has happened. Anup Saha has now been he will take charge from 1st April. Now he's the deputy MD. Within Anup Shah, that deputy MD, there are 3 COO they have promoted. So there's a new structure in place. And Rajiv Jain, who built the NBFC in the last 16-17 years, he's still the MD. But when I talk to people outside, they tell me that maybe he will take charge as vice chairman, and Anup Shah will become the MD CEO. So a lot of uncertainty there because people want to know because Rajiv was the guy who built the NBFC. So what will be his role tomorrow? So there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm sure that will get cleared in the next 1 month. Second, the competition. If you see in the last 1 year, we have seen Jio Financial coming from the Reliance table, and getting into areas where Bajaj Finance was bringing big business in the last 16-17 years. We saw Piramal coming in, SME, car loan and home loan. They bought DHFL, so they have a huge portfolio of home loan. They want to get into affordable housing. Then we got, Godrej, again a big player, Poonawalla, again, is a Pune-based, very close to, Bajaj Finance headquarter. So we saw, big corporate-backed NBFC coming into this space. So that's the one, the big challenge or the competition which is coming, from NBFC. Second is the banking sector. Even the banks are now getting into new geography. They're getting into semi-urban, or smaller centers where today Bajaj Finance is present. Even the segment, if you see consumer durable, I mean, Bajaj made it because of consumer durable. Now, banks are getting into consumer durable. So, a lot of competition, number two. And number three is the size and scale. If you see today, Bajaj Finance has a book balance sheet size of around less than 2.5 lakh crore. Now, is bigger than many mid-sized bank. Whether it's IDFC Bank, whether it's Federal Bank, whether you take CSB or a Maharashtra Bank, is bigger than mid-sized bank. And recently we have seen SDFC Limited getting merged into SDFC bank. So when you scale up under an NBFC model, the challenges comes on the liability side because you don't have CASA, saving and the current account deposit. You are dependent on fixed deposit where the rates are higher. So your cost of fund is higher. When your cost of fund is higher and you are competing with banks in home loan, car loan, consumer durable, is very difficult when you have book size of 2.5 lakh crore. So at some stage in future, they have to think about, owning a bank. So that's the third big challenge, which people see or the investors see in this NBFC, because from 2.5 to 5 lakh crore journey is going to be very challenging and difficult. Sakshi.
Absolutely, Anand. Well, thanks a lot. Truly appreciate you giving us all that overview about what's really happening in the industry, the study key insights as well, and what do we expect going forward from here. Let's shift gears and now get Krishna into the conversation as well, because of course the major focus of this issue is on the best banks, the study, and you will get to know an insight into what has happened. But there are other key big stories also that you have to watch out for, especially two big interviews that have been taken exclusively in this edition. Eli Lilly's chairperson and CEO David Ricks, and as well as we've also got a special interview with Romil Shetty, the South now for Deloitte. So Krishna, let's start off with Eli Lilly first. Because that's one is something that everybody would be out there looking to understand. We've understood, we've gone through stories which talk about the viral drugs that this American pharma company has launched already. So in the category of diabetes and of course for obesity, the weight loss drug that everybody is talking big about. So tell us, in this interview, what have we garnered into the chairperson's view as far as how does he see India as a launch pad for the new growth trajectory for the company using these drugs?
Sakshi, thank you very much. No prize for guessing here. Obviously, India is a key market and the thrust is obviously on chronic. So they're very optimistic of diabetes and obesity. And these are two issues which I think are likely to confront the Indian population for many years to come, regardless of which part of India you're in or regardless of your gender. So I think the ability to open up the market completely in India is what is most attractive to the company, and that's exactly what Mr. Ricks has spoken of. I'd like to just highlight a few points here. It's been a bit of an interesting mix of portfolio for the company. They may not be perceived as being as aggressive as Indian counterparts, but the moment you have a plain chronic, your margins tend to take off, and your ability to have that long-standing relationship with the consumer, with the patient, if I may say so, is that much stronger. So that's the approach. There's an interesting tidbit I'd like to pick up here. Both interviews, and just digressing for a second, a bit with Romil Shetty or with Mr. Ricks, the backbone is technology. So if you speak of AI, if you speak of the fact, so just to get back to pharmaceuticals for a minute, the whole ability to use AI and reach out to the chemist portfolio, the chemist network, is what he's looking at. And I'm speaking of that from a very basic point of view. The bottom line is the fact that through technology in India today, large companies have a tremendous access to consumers or markets that they perhaps didn't know existed earlier. So he's banking all of it. The fact that he's got a product portfolio that's relevant to India. So I think these 3 or 4 factors put together makes for a pretty potent combination.
Absolutely, and very, very interesting one at that as well. The other big interview with Romil Shetty, of course, one of the youngest CEOs and taking charge at a time which are being seen very exciting times in India for a big four consulting firm, because a lot of innovation and transformation is really taking place. Do tell us what are the insights that viewers will get from this interaction as to what is Shetty's priority going to be going forward from here?
Yes, absolutely right. It's hard to believe that Romil Shetty is only 48 and he's got really the most complex job, if I may say so. Now, Deloitte has a whole portfolio of businesses. It could be taxation, could be audit, consulting, to just name a few. But Romil, an old KPMG hand, obviously has set his eyes on. He believes that as head of South Asia, India will propel a large part of the growth. He's obviously very bullish about the fact that the China Plus One strategy is now a reality and Indian manufacturing can easily up the game and reach a position of scale, which is one part of the story. To get back to what I said to you a minute earlier, in terms of tech, I think the consulting piece is where the tech part will flow into, because he now believes that his clients see a clear merit as far as efficiency and productivity are concerned, and that's where the AI part of the story comes in. So I think, in my opinion, based on what Romil said and the way Deloitte is structured, it's going to be the beginning of a completely different journey. So the whole idea of looking at it just as a classic consulting company or part of the Big Four, that may be put to the test eventually, because we are seeing a complete reorientation and a disruption of the existing businesses, and obviously for the better. And growth being at the centerpiece of this strategy, I think will just flow as a consequence.
Okay, understood. Well, thanks a lot, Krishna, for sharing all those wonderful insights from these two big interviews. I'm sure all the viewers must be very, very excited to read this one as well. Thanks to both of you for sharing such wonderful insights from this new edition. So all the viewers, if you've still not got your hands on this edition, please do go out there and grab your copies. This one is something that you don't want to miss in case you're looking to understand what is, how is India being looked at from the top view, whether it is from American giant companies or from the Big Four consultancy firms or from the largest weighted index on the stock markets, that's the banking and the NBFC space as well, and how are they all reflecting the state of the economy and the way we are going to be progressing going forward from here. Many thanks for tuning into this very special edition of BTS, but do stay tuned, as Business Today TV will continue to get you more coverage from the world of business and stock markets up on your screens very soon.
Arvind Kejriwal's third time in Tihar. The first during the 2012 anti-corruption movement spearheaded by Anna Hazare. The second in connection with a defamation case filed by BJP leader Nitin Gadkari in 2014. A Delhi court sent Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal to Tihar prisons till April 15th. In connection with the alleged liquor policy scam. He will remain in jail number 2 under 24 hours CCTV surveillance. Can read books, watch TV. He will be allowed home-cooked food as ordered by the court. Among the books provided to him are Ramayana and Mahabharata, and how Prime Ministers decide. Kejriwal has given a list of 6 people whom he would like to meet as per rules. Among them, his wife Sunita Kejriwal, their son and daughter, his private secretary Bibhav Kumar, and AAP General Secretary Sandeep Pathak. Tihar's jail number 2, where he is lodged, also houses manufacturing units. Meanwhile, the political tussle over his case has escalated ahead of the general elections.
11 दिन उनकी पूछताछ हुई है, पूछताछ पूरी हो गई है, अदालत ने दोषी नहीं कहा, उनको जेल में क्यों डाला है? लोगों का एक ही मकसद है, इनको चुनावों में उनको जेल में डालना है। देश की जनता इस तानाशाही का जवाब देगी।
अरविंद केजरीवाल जी राजनीति में किसी को सामने नहीं आने देते। अब वो आतिशी जी को और सौरभ भारद्वाज को फंसाने जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो जानते हैं अगर वो बाहर रहेंगे वो मुख्यमंत्री बन जाएंगे, अरविंद केजरीवाल जेल में रह जाएंगे। इसलिए ये अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने जो आज सनसनीखेज खुलासा किया है, एक बात स्पष्ट हो गई है कि शराब में घोटाला हुआ। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने मना नहीं किया, उन्होंने ये कहा कि पैसे का लेन देन आतिशी और सौरभ भारद्वाज को पता है, मुझे नहीं पता इन्होंने कितने पैसे लिए, कैसे लिए और कहां कहां खर्च किए। सो एक बात स्पष्ट हो गया, घोटाला शराब का हुआ था।
As Kejriwal adjusts to life in jail once again, he remains under constant scrutiny, awaiting his next legal proceedings.
The Business Today Accenture Leadership Dialogues brings me to the most exciting destinations across the country, where we talk tech, innovation, and this time, something very close to my heart, auto as well. I'm here at the Maruti Suzuki Innovation Gym to do a lot of heavy lifting in Gurgaon when it comes to ideas, tech, innovation, with two men who need no introduction, Rajesh Uppal of Maruti Suzuki and Ankur Agarwal of Accenture. Gentlemen, what a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Ayush.
Thank you so much, Ayush, for having us.
So we're going to start off with the nomenclature. Maruti Suzuki Innovation Gym. Now, we visit a lot of auto companies around the world. This is special. The fact that you've named it a gym, I know you're into fitness as well, and that it looks like this. What is the genesis of this particular facility, sir?
Ayush, to foster the innovation in the company, we thought working with startup is very critical for us. And we started this innovation gym to ensure that we work with startup and incubate them to build solutions for the industry. So we started a program called Maruti Mail, which is the program for startups in the country. Now we go for young startups, ask them, give them a problem statement to work on and create solution for our industry. Now they are mentored by our senior people. We invest in them to make a paid POC for the organization and make them a vendor if everything is successful. Till now, we have worked with almost more than 60 startups. Out of them, 20 of them have already become our vendors. So this innovation gym is really working on creating more and more startups, doing work for the organization and create products for the organizations.
Absolutely, really building value. A third, you said, of those startups are actually now vendors of the company and doing some really cool stuff as well. And
indeed, we also investing into them if they are successful. That's another piece which we want them to work and create a unicorn in the country, I guess.
But Uppal-san, that makes a lot of sense because you want to drive growth. And as an engine of growth, someone who understands it really well is here from Accenture. Ankur, when we speak of the partnership with Maruti Suzuki here and Accenture, it is fascinating that we have a product like this to really breed that innovation. But if we speak of this partnership, how is it very different or any different or unique from your partnerships with other OEMs perhaps?
Ayush, you heard Uppal-san speaking, right? The DNA of Maruti Suzuki is very different from many other OEMs, right? The innovation culture that is fostered in the organization, the leverage that Maruti does by setting up of centers of excellence. It is where the minds meet of Maruti as well as Accenture, right? So that we can collaboratively drive enterprise-wide transformation. I'll give you a few examples of how there are things happening differently as compared to many other OEMs or other organizations. Let me take an example of the data work that is being driven by Maruti. I mean, the outlook is to first look at data strategy, refining that data strategy, to moving on to redefining the data architecture of the organization, to break through the organizational silos or different ownerships of data, to have one common view and accelerate journeys of analytics and artificial intelligence within the organization. Another example, I think the digital core transformation that Maruti is undergoing right now is also phenomenal. It is to drive a lot of productivity improvement within the organization, as well as foster and drive more innovation through leveraging that stable digital core. I think we are very fortunate to be a part of some of these journeys together with Maruti. Maruti is a force to reckon with, right? The size, the complexity is industry defining. I mean, the front-end customer-facing processes that have been, or the customer-facing journeys that have been digitized by Maruti, I mean, it is again market-leading in various regards.
Absolutely. In fact, those are some of the developments we've been tracking here across the India Today group. Upal-san, it's interesting when we speak of being the market leader. The company's been in India really leading the charge for nearly 4 decades now. You've played such a crucial role in that growth journey for Maruti Suzuki. But with the new age consumer, Ankur touched upon some themes that Gen Z is talking about, Gen AI, so to speak. How important is it for Maruti really to continue to innovate with places such as this one that we are sat in today, and really cope with the changing, evolving demand from the consumer?
Ayush, I think innovation is something which any organization has to keep on doing regularly. My firm belief is the life of innovation is very short-lived these days. You do it something now, maybe your competition will copy it after a quarter or so, or maybe maximum a year. So how do you make sure, as culturally in the organization, you keep on innovating regularly and raising the bar? I think that's the only way you can survive and work on. So take example for us now, and I think it started much before COVID. We said we'll digitize the whole customer journey into one single platform, so that we track each and every point where interaction with the customer is happening digitally. Out of almost 26 touch points, we digitize almost 24 points out of that, where we have a digital information available to us so that we can give that digital experience to our customer. Now that's a huge data which we collect for the customer, and which can be used to really give a world-class customer experience to our customers going forward. And Gen AI is on top of it, will create that enablement of that data is very, very important, so that we are very prescriptive to the person interacting with the customer on what to talk, how to talk, and so on and so forth on that. I think that's the big opportunity which all of us to work on, customer data which we have created, to make it useful to really interact with our customer and give him the best experience possible, I guess.
The right effective use of data is what Upal-san's also talking about. But that's what I want to understand from you, Ankur. With all the work that you've been doing at Accenture across the region, with data, technology, and digital strategy, how crucial a role will these particular facets play in driving the digital transformation journey for Maruti and other top brands like Maruti Suzuki?
Ayush, if I focus on the automotive OEMs, right? Traditionally, automotive OEMs, if I can take the liberty to say, have been laggards in adoption of digital technologies, right? The focus was traditionally more on the manufacturing side of adopting technology in that space. Post-COVID, there was a significant change and shift that happened. Change was more around the complexities in supply chain that came, all the challenges that came about, and there was a mindset shift. As we see now, there is a significant openness in adopting organization-wide digital and technology interventions to see how business overall efficiencies can be brought in, how new revenue streams can be opened up. There is, in the entire auto OEM space, software-defined vehicles is another major shift that is happening. From traditional hardware-driven cars, right, to move towards all software-driven operating models, where you can very openly nimbly shift with changing customer preferences, right? As consumer preferences are changing, you can really give a better experience to the consumer in the car. You can, throughout the life cycle of the car, keep shifting in or pushing more changes that are coming in. That is something which a lot of trends that we are seeing. You talked about generative AI, Upal-san also touched about it. Generative AI is significantly changing, I would say, or a significant priority across industries. Yeah. Now it is, it's not really a myth or anything. An automotive industry is taking a strong notice of it. We believe that generative AI can drive significant reinvention of businesses rather than pockets of interventions. And every business should move towards being an AI-led business. Now, automotive industry, across the value chain of the industry, there can be interventions of Gen AI, whether it is control, performance. Upal-san talked about consumer experience or customer experience, customer support. All of that can be significantly impacted and changed. I believe millions of dollars of value pools can be unlocked leveraging Gen AI for a large auto OEM globally. And I think it is just a matter of value unlocks to happen.
It's interesting because the conversation about Gen AI keeps changing and literally things go by in a flash. But let's not just stick to Gen AI. Let's talk about other emerging tech. Upal-san, when we talk about there's quantity and then there's quality. And I know that some of the instrumental work you've done here in Maruti Suzuki, there's a huge stress on business effectiveness, really driving that value using technology. Do you think that is imperative, the way forward when we talk about really driving that engine of growth for the company?
Absolutely. I think traditionally, always IT has seen as something which can create efficiency in the organization. Now, 5 years back, we thought this is not the only thing which can do. The business effectiveness or business value is one important area. So we said we need two organizations. One is focusing on efficiency, but another organization, which is, we call it digital enterprise here, which focus on effectiveness. How can we create more value from the customer? That's where this digital organization was created. We started with around 5 people. Now we have more than 500 people working on your digital organization. And the way we have done it is we have created different COEs to focus on different technology areas. We have one COE which looks at data, IoTs and analytics on that. We have another COE looks at creating digital products done through agile methods on there. We have another COE looking at automation, all the RPAs and all the rapid development tools in the company adoption. Also, we created a business process COE, which creating the new business model can be created, like subscription marketplace or a finance marketplace we have created and all, to really create a digital products, incubation and building that up. And last COE we created was for innovation from the open innovation, where we work with startups to build that up and all. Yeah. There's a wholesome organization only focusing on the business value, then efficiencies. Efficiency, IT can take care of it.
But it's interesting, you mentioned some things which I'd want to understand a little better. Subscription marketplace, finance marketplace. These sound like, well, disruptive products coming in from the Maruti Suzuki stables. Could you elaborate and tell us, we as a consumer see what the final benefit is like, but you have worked on this from ideation all the way, inception all the way till execution. So how does this work with the power of the Maruti Suzuki Innovation Gym and the partnership with Accenture?
Okay, subscription is a use case. We thought that people need car for small time. So you are traveling to or maybe you are posted to a new city for some time and you need a car over there. Now, instead of buying a car and selling off with a major chain, can you on your mobile look for a car available, a fresh new car, and you can subscribe it for 1 year, 6 months, or whatever time you want it and all, and give it back. Pay EMI by your mobile phone, and keep running your car. That's the way this model was worked on. It's win-win for customer because he needs the car for the short period. It's good for us. It's additional revenue coming out there, and as a marketplace, you get the right kind of partner to give you those services around. Interesting second was the finance marketplace we created, where we connected 26 banks into one single platform. And in the digital journey of the customer, this is one step where as a customer, you can walk into our marketplace, Based on your car requirement, your loan requirement, we can ask all the 26 banks to compete for that, give a right EMI or right options to which is suited to you. So it's win-win for customer and win for the finance company to give you that and all. So these are the new innovative products we could create to give a best experience to our customer and also create value through digital in the organization.
Opal-san, since this is the Business Today Accenture Leadership Dialogues, one big takeaway from this series is lessons in leadership. And I'm sitting with two top business leaders as well. So I'm going to start off with you, Opal-san. When we're talking about innovation in a legacy company, a legendary company, which has been around in India for the past 4 decades, and some of these disruptive ideas, how do you really build that culture of innovation and open innovation really in a company like Maruti Suzuki to lead the charge? What is that lesson in leadership that we can take away from this?
First is it has to lead from the top. So my CEO is something he's very passionate about it and he's right from his office. That's the point number one. Secondly, digital innovation need digital supply chain. You need capability to deliver and capability to consume. So you need to generate demand for the digital. So for that we created a huge platform where we create knowledge for each and every, right from top management to people below, what digital means for them, and ask them to create more and more ideas of digital can be done. And parallelly, we created a digital enterprise who can supply these demands over there and all. So I think each organization need to do is create a digital supply chain within the organization.
Interesting. Ankur, I'm going to keep this short. Do you really agree with that? Is that how Accenture looks at it as well?
No, absolutely, completely resonate. I think we at Accenture, we don't look at just doing digital interventions at only functional levels. We want to take a more holistic enterprise-wide lens to it to drive a broader transformation. More and more organizations today are transforming faster and more than ever before, right? But what we are seeing, Ayush, is there is a small segment of those organizations whom we are calling it as reinventors. These are the organizations who are consciously following a strategy of total enterprise reinvention. Right? Now, this strategy is enabled by a very strong digital core, which is enabled by, we talked about data, cloud, AI. It is also enabled by a very strong talent strategy, right? And new ways of working. Now, these new ways of working and talent strategy help in reinventing the organization. Now, if by doing this, these reinventors are able to not only generate incremental revenue growth for the organization or drive more cost reduction benefits or more balance sheet improvements, but set new performance frontiers, not only for the organization, but for the industry at large. Time is definitely ripe for doing all of this because there is so much disruption happening. There are new entities or organizations coming in and disrupting organization models. For automotive OEMs, it's more about a lot of the mobility and e-mobility services that are coming in. There's a significant focus on sustainability. I think we as Accenture do a research every year and that's called our Tech Vision. I'll quote a quick stat from that. More than about 90% of the auto executives globally who were spoken to said that over the next 3 years they believe Gen AI will impact their core business processes. And more than 96% of those executives believed that Gen AI will make them really reinvent their core technology architectures itself. So with a lot of this happening, I think total enterprise reinvention is the way to look at as Accenture, as we say.
What's really interesting is, and this could be from even a marketing strategy standpoint, that as someone who covers the tech and auto worlds on a daily basis, I see that they're merging in more ways than one. I don't know if globally it's the Elon Musk effect, but it seems like one big differentiating factor with auto companies now is tech. And I feel like that's an important facet of where Accenture comes in as well. I want to get your take on it, Ankur, with Accenture's investments in the automotive space. Where do you see the future of auto and tech? And do you also agree that those worlds are fast merging?
Absolutely. I mean, many years back, we had said that every company would be a tech or a digital enterprise, right? And auto all the more, right? With so much of, we talked about software-defined vehicles, in-car software that is coming in, there is a significant convergence that is happening. I mean, you compare a mobile phone to a in-car I mean, inside a car, there is a shared space that you are in. Mobile is your more personal space. Now, with all this software coming in the car, automotive companies have such a, I would say, an opportunity to give shared experiences to the consumers sitting inside the car and give experiences which might be even better than mobile experiences, and in turn, as Upal San was also referring to, extract more revenue streams out of those. So significant convergence happening, but also significant opportunity emanating from that.
So Upal San, we're going to end with you. Do you think that the worlds of auto and tech are really merging into one, and that's a good thing for both sectors going forward?
Absolutely. I think the car going forward is a computer running on wheel than really a physical. And since it's a computer running on wheel, the connectivity, the infotainments, and there's so many services which can be done. And also, since you know the location of the car, I think you can add many more services on top of it. I think going forward, getting revenue from mobility will be one big area of work. Not only a car, but overall mobility as a function.
Upal San, Ankur, what a pleasure it's been to really pick your brains on this one. I've been taking notes. I hope you guys have been as well. This brings us to the end of yet another fascinating episode of the Business Today Accenture Leadership Dialogues. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us, and thanks for watching as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rampur is famous for its knives or chakus. This time, all knives are out to win this battleground that combines 5 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh.
It was in 2019 when Rampur, known for the Rampuri Chaku, witnessed a fiercest election between Azam Khan and Jayaprada. Azam Khan
small finance bank. And if you look at the stock market performance, the way AU in the last 4-5 years, this year is a setback. Ujjivan has displaced, AU there. And for the first time, we did, we include NBFC category in our study, and no surprises there. Bajaj Finance is the, where they. So there are, 16 categories, 17 awards, and a lot of surprises there. So I want viewers to read the copy.
Right. Anand, I also wanted to ask you, of course, we do know that after a long haul, we are now seeing banks which have the best of balance sheets today, lowest NPAs. So the worry points are a thing of the past. Capital buffers are there. There is a higher profitability, be it in the private sector banks, be it in the PSU banks as well. What are the challenges right now for the banking industry going forward that you foresee?
So, Sakshi, if you look at the banking industry, there are two sides. One is the liability side and other is the asset side. Liability side is the one where they get the deposits, low cost deposit, and asset side is the side where they lend. I mean, it's the assets, the home loan, car loan, and, other loans which they gave. Now, on the liability side, the big challenge is on the CASA. The CASA is the raw material for banks, the low cost current and, savings account. And that's where we are seeing a lot of challenges because of, liquidity got tightened in the last 1 year. And I have seen, the CASA ratio of big banks falling. And that's where I see, a big challenge for banks. And for our Lifetime Achievement Award, we met, Uday Kotak, and he was talking about a big structural shift which is happening, from savers to investors. So all youngsters today, they prefer to invest in equity and mutual fund, rather than putting, their money in, fixed deposit where they're getting, very low, returns. And I was also talking to one of the bankers, he jokingly said, people are also, putting money in this gaming industry. So a lot of money, going in the gaming industry also. So I see, a big structural shift that is happening on the liability side, and I see, banks facing major challenges. Now,